everybody. Welcome to the National Real Estate Post. Frank Ray here with you. Got Barry Habib, of course, which will always be fun and entertaining and informative. Before we get started, Barry, I want to remind everybody, Oaktree Funding, your non-QM lender of the universe stratosphere. They are there to help you guys out. By the way, they've gotten a bunch of new products and their pricing is just blowing the doors off of all the other non-QM lenders out there. So you definitely want to get connected with them. There's a banner right on your screen, which is over on your right. Click on that banner over on your right that says Oaktree Funding and let them show you their goods, what they got. You're going to definitely want to get connected with those guys and start sending them some business. So with that, Barry Habib, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. It's great to see you. You're looking very fit.
Fit. Yes, I've lost a few pounds, went through the COVID thing, kind of knocked me down for a little bit, lost a couple pounds. So let's see if I can keep it off.
Yeah.
I'm not hopeful. So anyway, hey, wanted to get you on the show, Barry, because, we had the Jackson Hole meeting with the Fed. So just curious, did that do anything? Did that impact anything? And then continue down our ongoing path of course, everybody's main concern is the real estate market, is cooling off, blowing up, getting hotter, there's a lot of information that comes out almost daily from various sources. And I know it's a concern of everybody. They're just curious, what do you think is really going to happen? So let's touch Jackson Hole first and see anything rate wise that got impacted through that.
Yeah, let's unpack that one first. So it was his usual super dove self, as are a lot of members of the Fed. And we've been hearing more and more Fed members talk about, hey, we should start tapering. We should start getting it through it pretty quickly. But they tend to be very brave about these comments, but then when they go behind closed doors, they tend to be a little bit more cautious and a little bit more dovish because they don't want to do something in their minds that's too premature that might cause the economy to fall back. So we've gotten addicted to this quantitative easing, but let's understand it a little bit more. So first of all, with respect to Jerome Powell and his comments, he did say that the employment situation was improving. However, he thinks we have more work to do. He did see some inflation, but he thinks that inflation, the famous word that he uses is transitory, so nothing to worry about here. I agree with that for the service sector. I'm sorry, the goods sector, because we are seeing some difficulty getting things like chips, and there is some inflation that you get from the reopening. But with wages, that's sticky, and that's an important one. Do you know the wages in the private sector year to date, if you took it and you extrapolated it out through the rest of 2021, it'd be a 13% increase in the private sector wages. That's a lot.
Wow.
We've gone over this before. You don't have to match up because you only use a fraction of your monthly income for your mortgage payment. So as home prices rise, that can handle a 40% increase in real estate prices. So, we're looking at some very robust appreciation, probably 18% a year. Look, we all agree that's just too hot. We'd like to see it calm down. But from the Fed's perspective, they are acknowledging that, the housing market's hot, rates are low, but let's just dissect this for a minute. So the Fed's buying $80 billion in treasuries. They're buying $40 billion a month of new mortgage-backed securities. But here's the dirty little secret. They're buying like another $60 or $70 billion a month in when people pay off their mortgage by a refinance or any principal payments, or if you sell your home and you pay off your mortgage. The Fed's got $8 trillion on their balance sheet, so they've got a lot of mortgages in there. So as the Fed gets that money, instead of saying, hey, we'll reduce that $8 trillion, no, they're reinvesting it. So it's really, I don't see the difference. They're buying it. They're buying over $100 billion a month, but they're only going to taper on the $40 billion. So let's just say they say, okay, we're going to taper 25%. It might seem like 25%, but it's really less than 10% of their purchases.
Gotcha.
They're going to have a big appetite for a while. I don't think it's going to be as disruptive as people think. Now, on the Treasury side, we may see a more disconnect because Treasuries might wander off a little bit further in yield, but I don't think it's going to have as big an impact as people think. Now, you also asked about real estate.
Yeah.
And we just did get some data recently, existing home sales, pending home sales. Now, pending home sales are good because it's signed contracts for the month of July. And the media kind of just really got a little bit in a, as they always do, negative on this stuff because it was down 1.5% from the previous month. It's not that big of a deal. And 8.5% year over year. And they say, housing market's rolling over. So first of all, there's a reason they call it the spring home buying season. And that's because in the spring, many families who have children would like to get the transaction accomplished in the spring the closing done and the move-in done by the summer, so that come, depending on where you live, end of August, early September, when your child goes to school, they aren't disrupted and pulled out in the middle of a school year. We've all been there. We all know how cold kids are. So parents are sensitive to that. That's why you see a rush in March, April, and in May, and then you always see a little bit of a lull. So this is a normal pullback from that surge of crazy activity. Right. But there's also something else to contemplate. Inventory levels down 12%. So that, of course, is going to play a role in it, because you may want to buy a house, but it's, as we all know, it's harder to find one. And then the third aspect of it is, hey, let's not downplay it. Prices are up 18%. So yes, some people are going to be shut out of this, because we're not going to sugarcoat it here. That's definitely a factor. But when you look long-term at this, if you look at pre-COVID, the levels that there were, then there was the big drop and then the big spike. All we're doing is retracing and coming back to a pretty normal level. And with the lack of inventory, that says a lot. And also, did you know that still 27% of purchases, get this, I know all you guys know this, but it's a big number, waiving appraisals and waiving inspections. We both know that's kind of dangerous to do, right? But you know, to waive your appraisal, maybe there's ways around that you get an AVM, you can get comps, you can justify that. I don't think it's a great idea. But waiving the inspection, you could find yourself in a little bit of trouble there to waive the inspection. You know, that's a scary thing. And people are willing to do it because they're so aggressive in their buying, and there's just such limited supply. So when you start to see things like this, if things like this started to turn around, well, maybe. Now, the other thing people talk about is the forbearance, the expiration, the foreclosures, blah, blah, blah. So about 30% of these people in forbearance, they're making their payments anyway. So they're just technically in forbearance. So you shouldn't even be counted if you're making your payment, right? Because what's the difference, right? It's a technical label. So when you remove that, a lot of the people can make their payments. You're just saying, hey, I get a free ride. So they shouldn't be a problem. And many people will be going back to work or have gotten their jobs back. They shouldn't be a problem. There's going to be a small fraction that might have some trouble. But, you know, even if that inventory came on the market, we desperately need it. It would help to cool down 18% appreciation. It's not such a bad thing, right? Let's get 5 or 6% appreciation. That's wonderful. But what people forget is they tend to dismiss or discount what happens to those people if they were, for whatever reason, foreclosed upon, or they had to sell their home. They're going to eat up a roof someplace
somewhere, right?
So they're either going to buy another place or they're going to rent someplace. And believe it or not, a demand for rents, that also is supportive of real estate values, because you can value a property based on what its rental take is as well. So yeah, they're going to eat up a roof someplace. And by the way, you know, rents are going up by 14% a year as well. So it's no picnic there either. So I think overall, when we look at it, I would like to see the housing market not appreciate so rapidly. I'd like to see a little bit more inventory. Those things would be good and healthy. I do not think there's any chance we see a bubble, a bust, a drop. This is not where we were in 2007, where you have about 12 or 13 million more households. You got about 3 million fewer units on the marketplace. It's not the same. It's not the same. In 2007, you had 3.7 million units. Today, you got 1.2 million units for sale. It's not the same set of parameters. And then, by the way, demographics. When you looked at what happened in 2006 and 2007, and you looked at births from 33 years before that, they were declining and staying low. Here, if we look at births, when you look at the birth rates that we saw 33 years ago, and we choose 33 years because that's the median age of a first-time homebuyer, and then you look at 32, 31, 30, 29 years, it's the exact opposite. Those birth rates were going up, up, up. So that means you're going to continue to see a big influx of people that are going to form a house. They're going to need a roof over their head someplace. Yeah. Listen, it's great to stay with mom and dad forever, right? You don't want to be the 40-year-old virgin living with mom and dad, right? So this is something that when you look at the big picture, and instead of just the media that's just trying to get eyeballs, do we wish things were a little bit easier to purchase home? Of course. But hey, by the way, that 18% appreciation while it's hot, how about 66% of homeowners who have now benefited from that? Now you can take cash out. They've created wealth out of thin air. Pay off your debts, put some money away for retirement. You know, there's a lot of good that's come out of this. I mean, it's not a bad thing for everybody. Right.
Hey, what about this? And we'll just have you address this, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here, because it's been great information. And I know everybody got a lot out of it. But you know, the Supreme Court ruling that they're gonna, they kiboshed the extending the eviction situation, where now I think it's like October 1 or October 3rd or something, where the moratorium on eviction is over, and so landlords will be able to, evict people who, for, let's be honest, bad, horrible reasons. The COVID did definitely hurt a lot of people and put them in a bad situation. But the vast majority of landlords out there are not huge conglomerate corporations. They're just individual peeps like you and me that might have a rental property here or there, and we need that rent. We need that rental income to make that mortgage payment on that investment property desperately. And so now we're in a bind. So, but the ruling would say that they can now start to evict. So the thought process there is, and it affects like 3.6 million people, something like that. And then the thought process there is that, well, okay, if the landlords can now evict, get rid of the tenant, now I can sell this dang thing. Now, because it was such a miserable experience going through this, I don't even want it anymore. I'm going to sell this albatross around my neck. Will that bring back some inventory to help cool things off?
So a few things. First of all, of course, you want to be humanitarian, right? But you'll be surprised how many people start making payments with faced with eviction, right? If I don't have to make a payment, I can't get evicted. Maybe I won't make the payment. But, oh, wait a minute, you're going to evict me? They probably, a lot of them will find a way to make the payment. And this also brings up what's going to happen next week when that pandemic unemployment assistance goes away, that extra $300 a week people are making. So people will come back into the labor force as well. So there's a lot that will be changing and a lot of moving parts. So it's always difficult to figure out exactly the way that's going to play out. But my take on it is that it will not be as big of a hurdle. Most of those rental situations will be worked out now, given the sword of Damocles over the head of that renter. You could still sell it with the tenant in there. Maybe it's a little bit more of a headache to do so, but there's such a dearth of available property. Somebody might buy it and say, okay, well, eventually I'll get this guy out of there. At least I get the property at this price, and maybe I can get a little bit better deal. So I don't think that it's going to be a big issue. Plus, as we said earlier, those renters, once evicted, they're not going to pitch a tent. So they're going to find a place to go, and they'll occupy another roof and eat up another space there, which will continue to put the pressure on the fact that it doesn't appear to be, a lot of homes available, whether it be purchase or rent, for the people in the population that are that continue to need them.
All right, great. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We've gone on for a little bit, but I do want to remind you all that, gosh, I think all of y'all are probably already connected to MBS Highway, but if you're not, oh my goodness, you need to be, so you can get these types of insights all day long from Barry. Every morning there's information that comes out, and then throughout the day as things develop, Barry keeps you posted on what's going on in the mortgage market and the housing market. So you can get it for free for a couple of weeks just to give it a try, and I just strongly recommend that you do. I'm putting a link down below to MBS Highway so you can guys get a 2-week free trial if you haven't done that already. There's probably only like 11 people left in the mortgage industry that haven't bought MBS Highway, but we'll try and get those 11 over there for you, Barry. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you, buddy. It's good to see you.
All right. You guys do us a favor, leave us your comments down below, forward, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you later here at the National Real Estate Post.